Hi, it's Matthew Dickson. Welcome, Mind Aid Live. It's Wednesday. I missed Monday. Sorry, Monday evening. I'm trying to do these Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. I missed Monday. Sorry. These I'm going to talk about mental health, general mental health tips. I'll talk about my own experience with schizophrenia and some things you can learn from that, and also about mental health in developing countries, the advocacy work I do for that. Those are the three main topics that I talk about on these lives. And yeah, so I'm happy because I've got some podcast interviews lined up over the next few weeks. I went on podmatch.com, matchmaker.fm, and podbooker.com. They are podcast matching platform. They match get podcast guests with podcast hosts. So if you're looking to get on a podcast, or if you have a podcast and are looking for guests to have on, these platforms match those two groups of people up. So I signed up as a guest, and I'm having people reach out to me saying, "Can you be on my podcast?" And I'm reaching out to other podcast hosts saying, "Do you want me on your show?" And I'm quite impressed with them. It was Phil Palucha, I think that's how you say his last name. He's in Britain, and he is a podcaster. He recommended those three platforms. I've had the most success so far in the last month or two of doing this with matchmaker.fm and podmatch.com. Podbooker, I haven't had as much luck with, but maybe you would. That's just my one experience with that. But I'm quite happy with them, and they make it quite easy and simple to keep track of the podcast. So I'll be talking about Mind Aid. I've done 3 so far in the last week, and those will be coming out soon. And I have another one booked for February of next year and December of this year. Most of them for October, though, that I've got lined up. So I'm happy to be able to get the word out about mental health in developing countries, and that's my main focus on podcast interviews. And I also talk about schizophrenia. I need to be an advocate for that because it's not talked about as much as it should be, and I'm trying to make a dent in that. And I'll also talk about general mental health tips for anybody because I've read many books on how to get myself better, and I'm trying to share that with other people. So that's what I'm most excited about lately. I've also reached out to a foundation. Someone I know said that for donations to Mind Aid, I steer people directly towards 10 nonprofits that I found to help people with mental illness in developing countries. And I don't accept that money bypasses me. I do accept money for myself to pay my own expenses so that I can work on this full time instead of having to get a job that I'm not interested in as much as mental health in developing countries. So you can donate to me there on Mindaid at mindaid.ca in the donate section. And I've reached out to a foundation because someone said that if you, some foundations will hold money for you and donate it so that I could. So how it would work would be you would go to mindaid.ca and donate. The money would go to me, but it wouldn't really go to me. It would go to the foundation that's looking after this. The foundation would take a small percentage. I'm not sure what, 1, 2, 3% maybe, for them to do this work. The foundation would take the money on my behalf and direct it as I see fit to these 10 nonprofits or a variety of the 10 nonprofits. So I might be able to have options for people to say which of those 10 nonprofits would you like your money to go towards, or it might just be a one size fits all. The money goes to so many of those 10 nonprofits. And I'm very excited about that. It wouldn't make me a nonprofit myself, but it would make me seem a bit more official. I don't know how much more clout it would actually make me or how much more official it would actually make me, but it would be a way for people to simply donate to the to some of the 10 nonprofits. So I'm very happy about that. I don't know if it's possible for the foundation to take out a percentage for me, like 2%, 5%, something like that, so that that could be in the future a way for me to make money so that I can keep working on this full time. That's what most nonprofits do. They take 2%, 5%, 10% to pay their overhead, to pay their salaries and all that sort of thing, so that they can do this charitable work. I may do that in the future. I'm planning not to do it right in the very beginning because it wouldn't give me a whole lot of money. Right now, I'm not bringing in a lot of money from people. If I took 5% of that, it would be, if I brought in $1 million a year, 5% of that is $50,000 a year and a decent salary that I could make. Or if I brought in $500,000 and took out 5%, that would give me, 5% would be $25,000 for the year. So I'd have to be making a lot of money, have a lot of people donating money to me to be able to make at least a living for myself. So I'm planning not to do that right away. I'm planning to give the full amount minus what the foundation would take, 1, 2, 3%, whatever it is. And right now, the foundation I reached out to, they said they can't do it themselves, but they're looking on my behalf for other foundations that could do this work for me. So it would be, very excited about that. I'm still plugging away at building my own confidence and my own strength to be able to run a social business or a nonprofit myself. I'm kind of steering away from a nonprofit. Some people have said it can be stressful running nonprofits. You never know when the next money's coming in. With a social business, you have a better idea of it's more consistent revenue, and you're not always asking people for money. You're giving something away. The way a social business works is you sell a product or service as a for-profit business, and then out of your total revenue, you give a certain percentage, 10%, 20%, 50%, 80% to a charity, to a cause. That's something that if I had to choose between nonprofit or social business, I'd choose social business. Those are actually, they seem to be the way of the future too. Many people are saying that's the way things are going. They really have a lot of, they're really desired more over a nonprofit. But what do I know? I'm not an expert. There are millions of nonprofits out there, and people keep making them, and some are doing great work and probably being run stress-free. So I don't listen to me. What do I know? But that's my limited knowledge on that. So I have thought of, if I did start a social business, what would I make for a product or service? And I'm a fairly creative guy, but I keep coming up empty on ideas for that. And I've never felt it really resonating with me to start something like that. And plus I still working on the strength and confidence to run a social business myself, or to be a part of it. So but that's in the works. I haven't given up on that. Mental health tips. If you are struggling with mental health, look up The Survivor Personality by Al Siebert, Siebert. That is a phenomenal book on how to improve your mindset, how to build resilience. And another one is Unbeatable Mind by Mark Devine. He's a Navy SEAL. He creates and has trained thousands of Navy SEALs. He gives away Navy SEAL secrets in his books, and Unbeatable Mind is his best book for mindset. He's got books on physical fitness too, and diet. He's got one on yoga. The Navy SEALs developed their own yoga, Kokora yoga. And another book is Verbal Judo, The Gentle Art of Persuasion. It's by George Thompson. And he's a police officer. He created this way of dealing with people with words, not weapons. And it's phenomenal. And it's helped me in my life deal with people so much better. It's not perfect. He says in the book it's not perfect, but it can make your life a lot easier. It's made my life a lot easier. I've read a lot of books on people skills. That by far has changed the most of what I do in daily life. If you're looking, some of us are stressed about the environment and the fate of the planet and the way temperatures, everything's getting hotter. And we don't know what the planet, what's in store for us. And it's stressing people out. Psychologists are trying to learn how to deal with it. They've never had people come to them with eco-anxiety before, eco-grief. and it's a new one for us. I found two books that have helped me think so much more positively about the fate of the environment. One is Catherine Hayhoe. Her book is called Saving Us. The other one is by Ellen, E-L-I-N, Ellen Kelsey, and her book is called Hope Matters. And Ellen has a testimonial by Jane Goodall in the book. They've helped me so much in just thinking, you know what, we might actually do this. We might do this. And Catherine Hayhoe says that it's been scientifically proven in studies that if you give people negative stories, they will become apathetic. And it could be negative stories about the environment or anything else. But, so she says, when you're watching the news and you see a negative story about the environment, or it could be something else, but we're talking about the environment here, ask yourself two questions. Is this a positive or negative story? So that you're more aware of what you're taking in. Is it positive or negative? And if it's a negative story, or even if it's a positive story, at the end, does it say what you can do to help? Is there a solution? And those are the two things to watch for when you're consuming news. Is this a positive or negative story? And is there a solution at the end? And be more conscious of what you're taking in. It's been shown too much negative stories with no solutions makes people apathetic, thinking it's too big a world, I'm such a small person, there's nothing I can do. And there are things you can do. There are things. For example, for the environment, you can donate $2, $3, $4, $5 a month, which is a pretty small amount of money, to a land trust, a nature trust. Some of the big overarching conservation measures are preserving wildness in the world. David Attenborough's recent film on the environment, and I forget the title right at the moment, but it came out in the last few years. He said, it's on Netflix, I think. He said that keeping the planet wild, and they say that scientists have estimated that if we keep 50% of the oceans and 50% of the land wild and preserved, then that's enough to keep it sustainable, to be living in harmony with nature for decades, centuries, millennia to come. 50%. So they've set targets of 30% of the world's oceans preserved by 2030, and 30% of the world's lands preserved by 2030. 30 by 30, with the ultimate goal of 50% of the world's oceans and 50% of the world's lands conserved by 2050. That's their targets for 50%. So preserving land, if you, in my province of New Brunswick, there's the New Brunswick Nature Trust. I've made a very small donation because I don't have much money right now. I think it's $5 a month, I think, to them. And it eases my conscience a bit. I'm doing something. I'm not sitting here doing nothing, feeling apathetic. I'm doing something. And I would love to be able to give them tons of money to donate to preserve more lands in New Brunswick. If you're in the States, look up in your state, there'll be a nature trust. There are ocean conservation groups you can donate to. And look this stuff up. There are petitions you can sign. In Canada, the Canadian Paws and Wilderness Society, they have petitions you can sign in many areas of Canada to preserve certain animal species or certain land areas or certain marine conservation areas. And you can sign these petitions. And there are things you can do that are very simple, free, or very cheap. Can you donate $3 a month to a land trust in your area, in the country you live in? It's something. It's not saving the world. It's not doing all these big things. In fact, one of the podcasters who's going to be interviewing me soon, I think, Danielle Burnock, she has a podcast episode out talking about how everything's big, massive, huge. We want always having a big impact, and yes, that's great. But she says, are we going overboard with that? Is that stopping too many people from taking any action? She says maybe little could be the new big. Just do little things. Do your part. That's what Jane Goodall says, the environmental and chimpanzee advocate. She says, too many of us just don't do anything. Young and old, we're apathetic. And she says, I mean, some of us are too sick or for whatever reason to do enough for ourselves. And for me, it was tough. I was struggling for a long time with mental illness, schizophrenia, and I felt I couldn't do as much to help out with the community. And it's tough. But a mental health advocate I heard years ago say, if all you can do is focus on yourself, and that's the most you can do to get through your mental illness or something else if it's not mental illness, remember that is an amazing accomplishment. Amazing. So try not to put too much pressure, because there's pressure on us to help, to have a platform, and I'm pushing that. I do push that on people, trying to encourage people to be an advocate, have more an effect on the world. And but at the same time, I don't want to push you too far and make you feel bad because you're not doing this stuff. Sometimes we can't. I felt guilty for years because I couldn't. And now I've got some health the last so many years, and I'm trying to do something. I am not having a huge impact right now. I'd like to be able to do that someday, but don't let all these huge, massive, big impact words scare you from doing anything. And if you're too sick to do anything, remember your recovery is an amazing accomplishment. It's we're all doing the best we can. We really are. We're all just doing the best we can. And sometimes years later we'll go by and we'll think, maybe I could have done things differently. Maybe I could have worked harder. Maybe I could have done this. Maybe I could have done something. Maybe I could have gone down a different path. But in the moment, today, we don't have that knowledge that we'll have in 10, 20 years from now of looking back on our life. We don't have that knowledge, and we're doing the best we can. All of us are. And try to forgive ourselves now. Try to forgive ourselves 20 years from now when we look back on our life. It's easy to look back on what you've been through and think, oh, maybe I could have done better. But yeah, I'll leave it at that for tonight, and I'll see you Friday night. I've got out of the habit of doing these for a little bit. I've had some major sort of mindset shifts, and I found that in times past, when I go through some sort of changes, growth periods, I guess you could say, I don't go as online or post as much online, and I've just sort of been through one of those. I'm trying to get back into these regular Facebook Lives and YouTube Lives, LinkedIn Lives, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday nights. So I'm starting to get back into the habit of those more. Thanks for tuning in, and see you.